Tina Carvalho with ABC News. 2016 has been nothing if not surprising in Australian politics, and the final sitting day of federal parliament didn't buck the trend. There was a sequel to yesterday's protests, moments of Christmas goodwill from across the aisle, and then a deal between the government and the Greens. From Canberra, Greg Jennett begins our coverage.
Well, the political year's ending with all of the volatility and unpredictability we've witnessed over the last 11 months. The Turnbull Government today clinched a last-minute deal to end what was a bitter game of brinkmanship over the taxes foreign backpackers pay on their working holidays in Australia. Now, in a moment, our political editor, Chris Uhlmann, will talk to the Prime Minister about that. But first, here's Chris's summary of how politicians wrapped up their parliamentary year with behaviour both nasty and nice.
As a punishing year ends a brief armistice.
To bid farewell to the Parliament for another year.
A moment for good wishes.
Behind closed doors, we actually get on quite well.
And a joint hope for better politics for a nation grown tired and cynical.
They are wearied of the political games.
Let us strive to prove worthy of the people.
Then back to business as usual.
To destroy, to wreck, to bring the show down.
The final hours of the parliamentary year were a fury of posturing over where to set the tax rate on young tourist workers.
Get that grin off your face, it's not funny at all.
Both major parties once agreed on a backpacker tax of 32.5 cents. Farmers, enraged by the loss of a workforce, pushed the coalition down to 19, and Labor opted to match New Zealand's rate of 10.5. By Monday, the government had shifted again.
15, done.
But it wasn't.
I didn't care if it was 10 or if it was 15. I originally voted for the 19.
The shifting sands of the Senate crossbench moved to a lower rate. That left the government stranded and the opposition pounced.
Accept Labor's sensible compromise of 13%. Prime Minister, it's time to end the chaos.
The coalition refused to budge again.
This is overreach now. This is just playing politics.
And if the stalemate had persisted, the old rate would apply.
Well, the common law is 32.5.
There are few innocents in this. The government mishandled it for 18 months. Labor was determined to make the coalition's last few days of this parliament an agony. And the position of some of the Senate crossbenchers is inexplicable.
And it's about time some common sense prevailed in this parliament.
For the second Christmas in a row, the Greens rode to the government's rescue, supporting the 15% tax rate in exchange for a clawback in backpacker superannuation payments and $100 million for Landcare.
Our responsibility in this place is to the community that we serve.
So that was Chris Uhlmann's report. Now, the deal with the Greens does allow the government to say that it's getting things done, but compromise doesn't come cheap, and that's one of the things Chris discussed with the Prime Minister in his courtyard here at Parliament House just a moment ago.
Prime Minister, how much does this deal cost you?
Well, this is a $55 million cost over the forward estimates, as the Treasurer has described, but it's a very good deal, and because it means it gives certainty to farmers and to hospitality sector, to everyone who's employing working holiday makers.
I thought 32 cents was a good deal. I thought 19 cents was a good deal. How far down the track did you have to go to get this deal?
Well, as you know, the non-resident tax rate is 32.5 cents. We proposed a 19-cent rate for working holiday makers, for backpackers, in an effort to compromise with other parties in the Senate. We proposed 15%, and now, obviously, that was not able to secure a majority, but they were then able to reach agreement with the Greens, and we now have maintained the 15-cent headline rate.
But this trouble begins in the 2015 budget, where 32.5 cents arrives without consultation with anyone, and you've been in retreat ever since. So how can you finish this year cleaning up a mess of your own making?
Well, you're talking about the 2015 budget. The budget for which I was Prime Minister, of course, was the 2016 budget.
You were in Cabinet at the time.
No, absolutely, and I take responsibility for all the budgets since the Coalition came into government, together with my colleagues. But what we have done is secured agreement. The important thing is the outcome. As Richard Di Natale, the leader of the Greens, said, he's more interested in eating the sausage than talking about how it's made.
And you're planting a flag of victory in a molehill that's half as high as the one that you started on.
Well, there you go.
Well, Prime Minister, is that a victory or is that just a retreat and a defeat?
Look, we are securing all of the commitments one after the other. We haven't secured the passage of all of our economic plan, but you look at how much we've done. We've secured the middle income tax cuts. We've secured our superannuation reforms. We've secured the passage of the registered organisation bill to make union officials as accountable to their members as company directors are to their shareholders, a big long-term reform which Labor's resisted for many years, and we've secured the restoration of the Australian Building and Construction Commission, again a long-term reform Labor has opposed for years. And we've been able to do all of that in a parliament which many said would not work, and we are ensuring that it does work.
But looking at that Australian Building and Construction Bill as well, some of the provisions now won't come into effect for 2 years. They could arrive the day before a Labor government strikes them down.
Well, I can assure you there won't. If the Labor Party wins the next election, they will abolish the Building and Construction Commission just like they did last time they were in government. So the moral of that story is keep voting for the coalition.
I guess the question is, at the end of this, how much skin have you lost through the course of this year? How much damage is done in some of these retreats?
We have succeeded in delivering on our economic plan. We've succeeded in passing legislation through a Senate which many distinguished commentators said would not be workable. We have succeeded in legislating reforms which we were not able to legislate in the last parliament. And we're doing it in a parliament in which we have fewer seats in both the House and the Senate. So I mark that down as a good year. This has been a year of achievement, a year when we are delivering as I said we would.
And where to from here, Prime Minister? We know that you've got a big tax cut, company tax cut for next year. But what is the defining thing of the Turnbull government? What is it that you want to achieve in the 2 years that you have ahead of you?
We've committed ourselves to delivering strong economic growth, delivering more jobs, enabling Australians to realise their ambitions and their dreams with that foundation of a strong economy. And we're doing that in a time of great economic and technological change, a time that makes many people anxious about their futures. We're providing reassurance, we're providing leadership, we're delivering that strong growth.
Prime Minister, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you too.